The ability to breathe oxygen from the air is an advantage, even for fish, and sarcopterygian fish evolved advances of the respiratory system which would be retained in their descendants, the amphibians. They moved the posterior nares, or nostril, to the roof of their mouth, forming an internal nares, and thus would ultimately be able to breathe with their mouth closed. As seen in this frog, the internal nares is not separated by a palate initially, and so it opens directly into the oral cavity in amphibians. Ancestral amphibians retained the bones which in their fish ancestors supported gills. External gills can still be found in larval salamanders and early tadpoles. Tadpoles later lose these and retain only internal gills. All amphibians perform a significant amount of respiration through their skin, which is why there are such significant blood vessels traveling to the skin to allow for gas exchange. In some, such as the salamander family Plethodontidae, the lungs are completely absent, and in adults all respiration occurs through the skin. There is also a frog species known in Borneo which lacks lungs and performs respiration through its skin. The ancestral fish swim bladder was divided into two separate lobes and functioned as lungs in ancestral sarcopterygian fish. Lungfish today possess true lungs which breathes oxygen from the air, as is evident in this lungfish. Amphibian lungs are simple structures without many alveoli and without internal subdivisions. Here, one can observe in the salamander air inflating the lungs, which are free to move. The lungs empty into the esophagus, just as the ancestral swim bladder did. You may have noticed in the previous video that the salamander lungs are not retained within only the thoracic cavity. They stretch into the abdominopelvic cavity because salamanders lack a diaphragm that mammals possess. Salamanders also possess short ribs which lack intercostals capable of changing the volume of the thoracic cavity. So thus amphibians cannot inflate the lungs by changing the volume of the thorax, but rather depend on the movement of throat muscles to inflate the lungs.